Do you guys see that?
Yeah, for sure. And there's also a lot of inflation. You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking both of you. just to open the work today. Okay, let's open the works.
Yeah, I do see that a lot. For sure, people mean different things. um, but the way I define high impact is we have our own definitions of understandings of open science, and we're always fighting with universities when they use open science in a very special way. And for high impact also we have our own practices. So what we mean by high impact is not just a device that might help, let's say, developing countries to be able to get food in crisis, let's say, okay? It's not just that type of thing, but it's also showing that if you have a solution, it has to propagate. So what are the conditions of propagation? You can have the most brilliant solution to feed people, but if it doesn't propagate, it's not high impact. You know what I'm saying? So we're building the solution, but at the same time, we're building the conditions for the solutions to propagate. So it's embedded in the design process. That's embedded in how we, how we advance. So, and that's done in different ways. It's by creating the network, by creating incentives, by designing this instrument so that it serve, different purposes, designing it specifically for certain business models, so that people have an incentive to get it, and then it spreads the virus. It spreads from people to people, because when they see it, they say, "Oh my God, this makes sense." So it's thinking about a solution that it's high impact. It's also as you build and implement the solution, you're creating the conditions of propagation. Because in the end, there is no impact if there is no spread. You know what I'm saying? Like you can invent the light bulb, but if nobody's using it because it's not compatible, because it's against because it's against their culture, or contradicts their culture, or because there is another industry that wants to push oil for lighting instead of electricity. Many conditions that make that something doesn't propagate. So we're trying to see these barriers, and so that's what we mean by impact. It's not just yeah, people use it.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of have mixed feeling about the meaning on things, because in one side it's like extremely important, and especially like very terms like this one, like regeneration and terms like that. But it's an endless path. You never like, if you go deep in the meanings, and when you like this, you start doing this. It's kind of, I'm exaggerating, but you almost stay alone because you're saying something that no one understanding. So I think sometimes that's what my takeaway. Sometimes I pick myself using a term that I know that is not perfect, not with, but everybody understands. So it kind of does the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So what's going on with you, Vinny? How it's
I'm
your
I'm actually with a lot of noise here, so you guys can keep talking, and I share
Yeah.
eventually.
yeah, no problem.
So can I ask one question, guys? Maybe for TB, if Vini is not able to answer. But I love networks. It's one of my strongest things. I participate in a lot of networks my whole life. I built something, someone's, especially in the last years, and it's something that I feel it's extremely important. And I think this idea of putting together these people from all over the world, like like-minded with similar goals and objectives, especially in the regenerative way. I think it's incredible. I love what your guys are doing, but I'm still having, because it's only my second gathering here. I'm still having like a hard time understanding dynamics. Like I know it's organic. I know people are kind of coming and that is inviting, so the network can grow. That's the methodology. I have a hard time in methodology as well. Like I kind of create the networks by heart, and sometimes I feel that the network can give more, can be more present or something like that, and and I feel like they're never close to their full potential. You know what I mean? And in the other hand, there is one network, there is very professional that that's not what I'm suggesting by far, but it's a network that have a lot of methodology and works a lot. But it's another thing. It's, I think it's in the other extreme maybe. But I don't know. This network, it's I don't know if you guys heard about. It's YPO. It's Young Presence Organization. It's an organization of CEOs from all over the world, from certain size companies, and you belong to a group they call Forum of 10 normally. They have chapter in a bunch of cities, and this group, it's like our family. You meet once a month, and it's almost like a meeting, but with CEOs. Like you talk about family, you talk about the company, you talk about goals, dreams, and everything, and it's very structured, and it works a lot. Like you take a lot of value, and they have like different kind. You have this forum, that's the macro thing, and my forum, we are together for like 12 years, meeting every month. And you have also like the chapter in each city, the chapter for the country, the chapter for the continent, and you have events, lots of events. Like imagine we are from Rio, we built a lot of great events, either education or tourism or whatever, visiting companies. We access everybody here in Rio. And you have the same people in Tokyo, and all over the place, organizing thousands of events all over the world. And close schools like Harvard, Stanford every year, and you can join, do a week program with other hours. So it's kind of, I'm giving like an extreme example, but I wanted to hear your feelings. Like you guys have a lot of experience in building these works. What are your vision, and how can we take the most of these?
Well, let me start, Chibi. First of all, Walter, very welcome question. I think that it's really relevant to make the difference of what you just described and the effort that we are investing here, right, with these weekly gatherings, weekly meetings, is that we're not forming, let's say, a network with some identity, right, that has a strict and focused proposed, or that has a type of, let's say, selection of people, a type of selection of people regards their if they are CEOs or they are owners of companies, nothing of that. It's more of a weaving dynamics, interactive dynamics between people that vibrates in the wide spectrum of the regenerative worldwide movements, and that have a way to understand generating of wealth through peer-to-peer to the through the peer-to-peer paradigm, right? Through the peer-to-peer paradigm. So that's it in a nutshell. So, but what we're trying to do here is not only to build formal bridges or transitional bridges, as TB says, but to really to blueprint a way to do the walk and do the talk uh, in a convergent way, where we can learn with each other. We can not only learn with each other, but we can create something that it really differs from the way that we understand, for instance, impact projects or impact investments, let's say. Or how do we really understand the generation of wealth, right? In a very biomimicry way, in a very life-centric way, not a human-centric way, as Hugo has been sharing with us. So, at least for me, and I think for TB2, this is a very huge challenge, right? And not that we're going to find the magic formula for everything. It's not it. But uh, just the fact that we're here having this conversation, opening our codes, let's say, the way that we do the things, right? And being open to make these transmutations and this that leads to some kinds of transcendences to our way that we're doing things in our lives, in the things that we call business, right? Is something for itself, right? So I think that's the essence of what we're trying to do here. Of course, we're just beginning. This is the fifth touchdown, right? And the for me at least, with the conversations that I have with TB, with Florian, with Danilo, with Patrick, and with Hugo, is we're trying to mimic once more with this movement, this net weaving movement that we're doing here, nature. We're trying to see that we can form a type of ecology of of of, of thinkers, of doers, right? Of people that are related to the region and peer-to-peer movements, and that we can deliver for ourselves and for others this type of vision that I just described. I think that that would summarize it. I don't know if TB would put it with in a different way, but that's the way that I'm actually understanding this engagement here.
No, that was perfect. Just a small follow-up question about that, and maybe TB can join. Uh, I think I understand pretty much uh, what are the profile, let's say, of the people that we want to bring, and what are the goals, and what we are trying, not know what we are going to achieve, but what we are the path that we are trying to build. Let's put it that way, because we don't know what this is going to take. What I'm asking is about format. That was a curiosity of me. Give the example of YPO, but the other networks that are together, I didn't have a lot of structure, and I feel we could take more of it. Like the same thing. We have the goals, we have the profile. There is one movement, Agora, here in Brazil. It's like a political movement, like to focus in renovation, and the people are there. It's like 100 people. It's like best people that we could. Everybody has this challenge, right? Uh, Nobody has a lot of time, and what is the best way? I see that you guys are trying to do like weekly meetings with that. That's what I'm curious about. If you know examples, if you're some methodology. I'm more about the format, the structure.
Yeah, related to the format, it just occurred to me that in our last touchdown that I was going to propose this here. I was going to share this thought here today in this the actual touchdown. That would be nice, TB, if the people that we, not only me and TB, but you too, Walter, and anyone else, the people that we invite and we feel that resonates with what we're trying to make it happen here in various senses, right? To invite them to have their own OCAST experience, right? So as I invited you guys, right? you, Walter, and TB with Hannah and Hugo to have your own OCAST, because in that way we can really map, let's say in terms of methodology, we can map the people that are in a very different podcasting experience, what people are thinking, all their links, right? All their works, their experiences, their projects. We can map it in Kumu, map it in Seven Vortex. We have that deep knowledge mapping that Google does that is brilliant. So I think that we kind of are starting to have a type of, let's say, methodology to structure this. I don't know if TB uh, agrees with me, but that's the way that I see that we're unveiling it.
Well, for sure, I can see that. I mean, that's the whole purpose, is to turn. I mean, to what I see happening here first is, you have a free space for brainstorming, and then um, and then you have the creation of these UCAST experiences that are associated with the methodology of um, capturing content, and building, exposing relationships between people. So there is like a sort of a funnel here. You see, we have these discussions, and then, oh, that was interesting. That was interesting. Can you bring somebody to dig deeper into this thing, and let's make this OCAST recorded video and mapping, conceptual and relation mapping. So I'm just slacking here because I'm very busy this time. I was less busy 2 months ago, but now with this food thing, it's going a little fast paced, and some hard time for me to catch up with the project. Yeah, but I really like to do one because I like the methodology. So there is a methodology, and I got the document for that, and I really like it. General speaking, because Walter, I sense that you have some more general questions, like, I have these networks, I want to start these networks, I see these, I'm part of this, how do we structure, right? That I find myself asking that question a lot of times. And my last experience with yeah, my last experience, that's the UCAST mapping, right? Yeah, map.
And you have here the link with the Seven Vortex deep knowledge mapping that Hugo does. So he made it for this last OCAST that was with Dinah Baumeister and Pete Vukzik, right? About biomimicry. So
Yeah.
that's here. And here's TB. TB's here. He's a very handsome guy, as you can see. Let me see.
Yeah, interesting. So you
at least in the photo. At least in the photo. At least in the photo,
Yeah.
you're a handsome guy. Here you go.
Yeah.
Continue,
So in
my friend.
general, my last, yeah, I I I participated in many groups, and my role was to structure these networks. The first one is WeShare. I don't know if you know about WeShare. It's a global network, and I was one of the co-founders of the Montreal WeShare chapter in the very beginning, we wrote the and vision and governance, and I was very active until last year. Okay, and my role was very explicit. I knew it, and I was very conscious about it. Was to help the group mature, which means to put in place methodologies of work and infrastructure, meaning tools, and tweak the governance as we go. The rules, what are the rules game? Because I see myself as an architect, because we built Sensorica from scratch, okay, which is a network. Other things in between, but my last experience was just last November. For a year and a half, we participated in the Open Climate Collabothon. So if you go to the Sensorica web and just search Collabothon, you will see that it's very clearly stated our role as Sensoricans in the Collabothon is this network structure. Okay, to adapt to its new reality. So the way I see this, Walter, is there is no straight answer. It's like for a company, like what do you want to do? What kind of business you have? What is your business? Okay, and then you adapt your model based on that. Okay, same thing for networks. And my approach is to say, what is that we're doing here? And how are things flowing into this ecosystem? It's something that's supposed to flow and it doesn't. And then you put in place blocks, boundary conditions, tools to make things flow the way you want to flow. Okay, so I really see an organization as a system where stuff flows. Okay, we even have a sort of a template how to an open value network, and you see all this language there. So for the Collabothon, for example, the ambition is large, but the network was still small and forming, and there was a lot of infrastructural problems. There was a lot of motivational problems, incentives within the network, and a lot of methodological problems. And an architect can look at what people are trying to do and spot where stuff doesn't flow, where things get, where is the frustration, where is the inefficient network, right? And can propose different things. In our thinking about how to design networks, and your end result, I mean, there is no, how should I say, there is no blueprint for networks necessarily. There are some patterns that you can use, and networks are very malleable. They are very dynamic. So you constantly have to tweak. You constantly have to tweak that. Yeah, if you go and search Collabothon, okay, Open Cloud, there you go. So this was our involvement. There's probably 2 entries with the Collabothon. Let me see if this one is go down. Let me see the objective of this one. But anyway, you can. Is Walter there with us or? Drop down or something. Vinny, can you? Oh, he's.
Sorry, I lost my Wi-Fi. I'm here in my cell phone connection. I don't know what happened.
Ah, okay. So, yeah. So he's showing the.
You have a lot of. You have some literature about love. If you could share, I don't know if that's where you're showing now.
Well, now he's. I think he's just sharing that Open Collabothon page on.
Okay.
On Sensorica. I can share. Sure. literature about how to structure the networks.
The metrics. Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and, yeah, and that's my role. I mean, I get involved into these networks, and the role I take is to help them realize what's needed in terms of infrastructure. So you have 3 layers. Okay, I always look at 3 layers. Actually, there's 4, but the last one is a little tricky. So you have the layer of infrastructure, tools that you use, governance, rules, the rules of the game, okay, and methodologies. And these 3 layers, they're connected. They're always interconnected. Okay. Let me give you an example. In Sensorica, work collaboratively, and we have to, it's a stigmergic environment, meaning like ants, work, we leave digital traces behind us so the next guy knows what to do. That's how open source operates. Okay, you go somewhere and you look at the wiki and you see what people have done, where they're going next, and you realize what you can do now. And sometimes there's signals for you to say, do this now, we need that. That's Stigmergy. So if your network is about Stigmergy and achieving something through Stigmergy, then place the tools. Okay, well, people are not going to work on their desktop and save PDF and change them by email, because that is not Stigmergic enough. Minimum, you can use a Google Doc where everybody contributes, and that's a shared digital environment where in real time you can see what people are doing, what you can do next. Okay, so you see how important. Now, in terms of rules, you tell people, well, you cannot say that you have contributed if you have not done. And if there are incentives associated, okay, you get paid for your work. Okay, the rules should say you cannot have access. You cannot have access to get paid if you haven't documented it. Okay, so you have a rule that says you have a tool that allows you to document, and you have a methodology in which documentation is an important role. And you say after every sprint, somebody has to make sure everybody has, and then somebody has to go through that documentation and make it more clear and more transparent and more easier for people to read. So you see how these layers interlock together. Okay, if not say that you are a Stigmergic network or that use Stigmergy goal. Okay, so when I go into a network, understand what it is and what they do, and I look at these 3 layers: tools, governance, tools, rules, and methods. Okay, and I look at them and I say, are these layers well designed? Do they use the proper patterns for this group to achieve the goal? Maybe the group is too small, then okay, you might be more informal. Maybe the goal is not very complex, or maybe the process is extremely complex. So depending on the context of the size of the group, the complexity problem, the complexity of activities that have to occur, the coordination, based on that, I look at this, okay, tools, rules, and methods.
Rules and methods.
And another very thing is culture, is the 4th dimension that it's most of the time my problem dealing with networks, and it's sort of a hard thing to do. For example, with the Collabothon, there was a big cultural problem. The Collabothon was initiated at university, so was from birth embedded in the institution, and it inherited in its genes the institutional mindset, the institutional way of going about things. There was a professor of this project, which is this guy, what's his name again? You can have him here on the that's exactly the guy. Let's see now, Weinstein. Anyway, so he's a professor, mind is within that paradigm. We have to make things sound like academics. Martin, that's his name, Martin. He's a very brilliant guy, but he doesn't have the open culture. Have the open culture. He has the culture of an academic, of a professor at Yale. Okay, teaching students, getting grades, and making and talking as a scientist. Okay? So the culture was a barrier for this project to open up as a truly participatory network. You see what I'm saying? And even if you come and say, guys, let's adopt these tools and these methodologies, if the people don't have the culture, that it's kind of hard to make them obey by the rules, adopt technologies and the tools, because they don't see any, or it's not part of how they do their stuff, or it's not compatible with their beliefs. Like a professor, before he publishes a paper, he works on his desktop because he's that people are going to steal his work and publish before. I'll tell that professor to work in a completely, or to get naked in front of everybody. You know what I'm saying? Well, it's not in his culture to do that. It's not in his culture to be extroverted and speak as a politician. He speaks, when you want to rally networks, you got to speak like a politician. Okay, you have to use that addresses a mass of people, and you have to values. Okay, you don't speak like a scientist. We're gonna do this because X equals Y and this and that. You know what I'm saying? So it was not the culture of this become a truly open and participatory. So the culture is the 40 minutes, giving you some examples here to understand where sometimes it can block. You can come as a network architect and say, which was my case in many instances. I come as a network architect and all right, guys, we have this problem. So we have to adopt this new control. We need coordination tools. You guys don't even have a, how do you coordinate your activities? Your shit is getting too complex, right? You put in place this, you propose these things, but at some point sometimes
they don't have the code.
Sometimes they don't have the culture. Yes. So best example is people coming from the corporate world and to operate as in a network environment, and culture is command and control, managing. Okay? Well, you don't manage, you're steward. You don't facilitate. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people in the sort of the environment, the culture within which people should evolve this mission, right? So there's a lot of cultural problems, and yeah. Anyway, so you have to work at these four. There are three that are technical, and one is like a more soft and slippery. How do you the culture of a group when you have people coming from a diverse, universe? And to nurture a culture, to grow a culture,
takes time.
It takes time. Yeah, it takes time. So but there are strategies. You can put filters in place. You can put in place rituals to reinforce culture. Repetitive activities that remind people some values and make them go through such rituals. That's why they exist, is to reinforce culture and make culture perpetuate, right? So there are techniques, but we gotta be careful here not to get into manipulation, you know what I'm saying, like social engineering, because I hate that. So everything has to be done in a transparent way, where people are informed that we're together creating a culture and reinforcing a culture, and we are together our infrastructure, our governance, and people have to be in these processes of making new rules, adopt new methodologies, and yeah. Otherwise, it's like
interesting how Chibi, thanks a lot, man, for sharing that. It's really rich to hear you.
Amazing.
Yes, it really rich to hear you and see.
That's exactly the answer I was looking for.
But I would like to aggregate a different perspective because the place that TB is operating is the organizational space, is the organizational paradigm space. So I'm very related to the organic, interactive organic place where is more related to complexity. So it's not where you don't really systematize anything or you don't use methodologies.
Mhm.
You just open yourself to interact, really interact, not only participate, because there's a big difference, you see, Walter, between interaction and participation. Participation is something that you pre-design it. You pre-design the participation of those nodes, of those people. So when you have an assembly, it's a social technology participation methodology, let's say, where everything is pre-designed. So we structure our societies. The ethos of our society is very related to participation, not really interaction. Because interaction is something that really changes you. You change with the other, and the other changes with you. So you create a third, a fourth, a fifth thing. So interaction is something very dynamical, and it changes all the time. The only thing that it's really a constant is the change, right? It's always changing. So I was very curious about that 15 years ago, and I started making a lot of field research, let's say, but with my life, not in an academical way. Like I'm research from the academy. I'm going to study this phenomenon. No, 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 no. I really I turn my life uh, 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 an ongoing, continuous research, right? About complexity, peer-to-peer interaction, science network, and things like that. So when I opened myself to make these experiences, I was amazed of the discoveries that arose for me, that became obvious for me. One of the thing is, yes, to make things happen in an organizational way, all these layers, all the culture that is needed to generate a network, you need methodologies, you need planning, you need people focus and really focus to make the, let's say, the syntropic movement, right? The syntropic movement is when you metabolize, you're really metabolizing what you need to get it done, right? What you need to get it done. It can be a task, it can be a challenge with all sorts of tasks. Okay, that's TB's territory. That's Stevie's knowledge. Is where he grew and he made Sensorica a very shining, interesting, and sexy, let's say, way of understanding the peer-to-peer paradigm and movement in the realm of let's rethink business as a whole in a peer-to-peer manner. That's it. But that's not where I come from, right? I came from that. I was embedded in the corporate and world for 17 years of my life in the last century, not this century. So I know exactly what TB is talking about, as I know what you're talking about. But my life, my life was related really to make these deep dives to understand if we can, as a species, emerge uh, patterns, patterns of behavior towards collaboration without methodologies. Without methodologies, uh, could we do this? Can we do this? Well, if you look the work of anthropologists, linguistics that have been studying our species, right? And and when you get a picture that 95 and 98% of our existence, we didn't have this structured rationality, we didn't have methodologies, but we have very a very nomad we were little nomad organisms, right? collaborative and cooperative, interactive organisms that were dealing with all our fragilities. We're dealing with all the risks to be in the open environment. You understand that we have something very embedded inside of our not only DNA but our epigenetic RNA that relates to this. So in a society so intellectualized, so rationalized, so systematized, where can we find this complexity that is culturally embedded in between us, in us and in between us? So was the source of my motivation to do the resource, and my findings were really great. Were I say mind blowing, in a sense that a lot of people now. I just to summarize it because this is a very long story, Walter, and I will have the pleasure someday we can talk effortlessly about this because it's really. Jimmy knows what I'm talking here about. When we talk about this, we spend hours, at least hours, with so much angles, so much perspectives that you can aggregate, right? So just to make a long story short, uh, nowadays I am involved with a lot of, let's say, interactive organisms that are not localized, they're not globalized, they are globalized in a very planetary way. The people that are not only collaborating, because for me collaboration is the first layer, is the fin in the first layer. It's very it doesn't stick, right? Collaboration doesn't stick. When you're only on the mode to collaborate, you don't stick with others. You don't generate sufficient narrative, cognitive narrative, cognitive bounding or blending between people to sustain the field, to sustain that exploration, to sustain what you're going through. So you need interaction for that. Interaction can do that for you. Interaction, you really establish a peer-to-peer mutualistic endeavor with whoever is, with whoever people might be. And this interactive mutualist endeavor, when you pair it in a peer-to-peer, very interactive, intense peer-to-peer way, sustains the field for you to endeavor whatever you want to endeavor, for you to make it happen, whatever you want to make it happen, or what, whatever you want to gather or to map or to make it happen. It's really interesting how this works. And I'm involved with all sorts of these types of organisms that are doing all sorts of things that you can imagine. So, and that's very interesting because it reveals how we are really interactive beings, right? In our core. And when you're not afraid to be open, really open, to make this micro impaired peer-to-peer narratives come alive, wow, man, you transform a lot of things. And this is the thing that I'm amazed. I'm still amazed. I'm still amazed with how we can make things happen without the need of identity, without the need of planning, and not a need of really when you really organize things in a systematized way, right? But you see, I'm not saying that it's one thing and another. I think that both things can have a conversation. Both things can merge. You can find this stigmergy, let's say, interactive stigmergy between network organizations too. Of course you can. But you have to, in my view, at least in my perspective, you have to be very permeable. You have to be very permeable to be open to changes in the configuration of how the flows of this network rolls out. You see, so this is very crucial, at least for me. And if we're talking about DAOs, not in an automatic sense, about autonomy, and autonomy in a very networked sense. So the main thing for me about DAOs is not about the protocol, is not about the algorithm, is not about the rules per se, is not about this. It's about things more profound for us as a species. It's about open to be interact, to make things happen together, and not only on your self-interest. This is another thing that is interesting. When you talk about social net weaving in our societies, right? This emerging phenomenon, this complex emerging phenomenon, uh, it's not it's not related to your self-interest only, right? It's about what vibrates in between us. So it's a movement to touch, to feel what is in between us, not only that you can call this a common, right? What is a commons? What is this type of commons that vibrates in between us that makes us as a species interact with each other, independently of our differences of languages, of culture, that we really bind, right? We really bind in between us, and we make it happen effortlessly with very, in a very enthusiastic way, let's say. I see this happen all the time, all the days of the week. So, because I'm really embedded in this interactive organisms that I see. So that's the thing, and why, and that's why we're here talking, even because I was attracted by the way that Chibi does his work, and with all the guys in Sesorica, as I was attracted the way that Florian is trying to make Utopia happen, right? And 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 it was a two-way conversation, right? It was interactive conversation. So, well, let's try this. Let's see what I can aggregate with all these profound deep dives and research that I have been done for decades in these dynamics that are very organizational and intends to be network oriented. So what can I aggregate? Not only me, but what type of what types of insights and perspectives that I can aggregate for these endeavors. That's it. So that's why we're here talking, and and uh, and for me, this makes a very rich mixture, right? Of perspectives, because you see now here we have three ways of understanding networks, wealth, right, and in these transitional times. TBs understands in a way that certainly is different the way that you understand. That's different the way that I understand, and we have very different experiences, right? Very different. Your experience is totally different from mine. It is totally different of TB. So we have a lot of grounds to touch together, to understand, to see what is common, what we can, what we can bridge together here, right? What we can bridge that is going to be spicy, is going to be sexy, interesting for all of us.
Mhm.
So that's the thing. I talk a lot. Forgive me. And my English today is not very good, so I'm not synthesizing what I want to synthesize.
No, thanks a lot, Vinny.
Yeah.
But
It
that's
complemented a lot.
yes, that's very complimentary. You know, when we talk about my approach to networks, it's everything external, like tools, the set of rules that are, you know, we write somewhere and we agree upon, and that we use that are scripts, you know, things in such and such a way. These are external to us, and Vinny brings this human, individual, psychological, human nature to it, right? Which is the substrate on which you build organizations. it's like psychology and sociology, or psychology and politics, you know. There's stuff that is external to us and stuff that is internal. I remember you, Vinny, about your experience in a village under a tree, and some unknown person came to you and you had interaction. Okay, that was not planned, was not, you know, and through this interaction, both of you learned and you leave something behind that is not written on a wall like a documentation that I was talking about, but it's within his wet substrate, right? The brain, and then that becomes generative of other information and influences other people. So there is all this stuff that happens, you know, beneath that we should not forget. And yeah, we can easily make that mistake of taking human being out of the equation and think of organizations as these automatons, you know. And in capitalism, we see the corporate world having made that mistake repetitively during history. You know, you have this famous how do you say, a Charlie Chaplin video in the manufacturing plant where he acts like a robot and then he gets out and it continues to do the same movement. So it's treating people as a cog in the machine, or treating people, or dehumanizing work in a certain way. And then you have all these problems, organizational problems, and then managers ask themselves, like, we're doing everything to make the mechanics work, but stuff does, we lose people's motivation, and it's because we're forgetting that human dimension, you know, that Vinny is so sensitive about. And yeah, so you see that this duality, the outside mechanics and the individual, it's also present in peer-to-peer, right?
No, yes, I identify a lot with that, because I think that's my way, Vinny. I always did all these networks, and it was by heart and trying to put people together. Yeah, but at some time, that's what you're saying, TB. Like, I think you don't need, but it's good to have both dimensions, because when you put some structure, you can take more. You don't take intuition, don't take all of these other inside dimensions, but maybe and it depends on the kind of network I'm thinking as well. But maybe when you want to, like, achieve something with a little bit of structure, it can, I don't know,
Or sometimes I think you
turn
need a
the
lot of
way
structure.
smooth.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah,
you need a lot of structure. And I know that
exactly.
from experience, we're trying to build a processing device. It's a very complex machine. It's called an extruder. There's a lot of engineering. There's a lot of moving parts have to come together. And without a sound design process in place, this can never be achieved. So,
Exactly.
you know, you have to put in place methods, tools. And I know it from my day-to-day activity. Somebody new coming and they're proposing ideas that have been considered, have been eliminated, and they're coming to invent the wheel, you know, because they're not following methodology. Like, go read the document. We have done this step already, and there was a decision-making process, eliminated this for this and that reason. Well, if you're just coming in network and just proposing, you know what I'm saying? So it can, chaos is good for creativity, but it's not good for productivity, because
Perfect.
productivity is usually scripted. You know, there is a
Exactly.
very defined sequence of events to make a car. You can't just the engine at the end, or, you know what I'm saying? There's a sequence. Okay, there's a sequence,
Yes.
and people have to follow that sequence. Otherwise, you just spend more energy and more time. When you're in a creative mode or exchanging mode, or, I don't know, interaction mode, it's fine. No structure. Don't put structure in place, because they're gonna. But yeah, production needs structure, and I can tell you from my
Exactly.
experience, you cannot operate as a network without a lot of structure. Like, sometimes in Zoica, people off by the structure because they think, and I wrote
Exactly.
I know that,
sometimes you
okay.
force the structure, right? You don't respect timings, and I think that's when you go to the other side, and it doesn't function the way you think. You try to put, and maybe it's culture, like you said. It sometimes the problem when you to put some structure, but maybe it's not the timing, and that's where I believe, like intuition, and not
Yeah,
a little bit of chaos and stuff like that. So I think it was great. I think you need to balance these two, and depending on the situation. But
definitely.
I think
Yes.
that's, yeah,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
I need to leave in a few moments. What are next steps next Thursday? What are your
yeah. Let's make this OCAST experience finally happen, right, TB? And I suggest
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Okay.
configuration. TB inviting Hugo, right? And TB being the co-host, and you, Alter, being the host, right? You're going to energize the temporary host role, and Hannah being the co-guest of Hugo. So it's going to be you guys are going to make the OCAST experience. I'm going to be there, of course, maybe Florian, and maybe the people that do the post production of the things, but they're going to be in the ghost mode. They're going only to hear and feel the flow of the conversation, right? The interaction, the flow, the interactive flow of the conversation. So if you guys can say, oh, it's okay next Tuesday, that well will be great.
yes?
So and I want just to give a shout
It's
out
gonna be
for
when,
Hannah.
Vinny?
It's next Thursday. Next Thursday.
When are you?
Next Thursday.
Thursday,
Yes,
not Friday.
from 11 a.m. Yeah, yeah, 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. So
Next Thursday,
I put it
I
in.
won't be able to make it. I'll be out of Rio in a family trip, and I think it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be in Fortaleza. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to organize myself, but in the next week I can. In the following week, I don't know if it's gonna get in the
So
middle of you guys.
yeah, yeah. It's for me. It's okay. I don't know for TB, but I sent an email for you guys. We can manage to see what's the best date for everyone there, right? So
Mhm.
next week is not good for you. So okay, we do the
Yeah,
fifth
in the next
touchdown
one.
next Friday, but we do the OCAST experience the other week, right? For me, it's okay. It's just a matter to see what's the best timing for you, for TB, and for Hannah and for Ugu, right?
Okay, perfect. And you guys are
Yeah.
doing, I'm horrible with email. That's one of the tools I have to use at RightTB to make this work. I mean, like mail, it's something that I kind of abandoned, and I know I suffer a lot of that. But is there any way that you guys can send WhatsApp or something, just a message?
Yeah, we could put up a Telegram. I don't know because I don't use. I have
Yeah,
WhatsApp, but I don't like. I really don't like it. But
no, that's fine.
yeah, but we could really do. We could set up a Telegram. What you guys say? It's good for you, TB. A Telegram, TB. It's good for you.
It's
No, I'll check the email. Don't worry. I'll look for this email.
yeah, that's the problem. It's too many platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just sent you a document because you're coming more from the business world, so you might method oriented person. So that's a document that Vinny shared with me some time ago, and I cleaned it a little bit. It's about the UCAS methodology, right? So take a look at it,
Perfect.
and we can guide
Yeah,
ourselves according to that document.
yeah, yeah. It's a very nice one.
Okay, you send an email, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, I got
Uh,
it.
yeah, and
I got it. Okay.
just make a shout out for Hannah. It's her birthday today, so Hannah, cheers for you. Very nice new trip around the
oh
sun.
yes.
Okay, Yeah, very nice to get to
Nice.
meet you. I know that she's going to see this, so just giving her a shout out. So that's it, guys. Thanks a lot. Was very, as usual, was very
Okay.
rich.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you, TBV,
Bye bye.
for me especially.
See you in the fifth touchdown. Let's
Bye
go.
bye.
Bye bye.